All right, so enough posting. Social media is not my forte. So I am here today on Tuesday. It is September 11th, 2018. And of course, you all know what that date means to most of us. And for me, it also means something else, and that is that it's my father's birthday. My father, Paul Graves, was born in 1939, and of course September 11th marked his day, and he passed away in the year 2000, and so this day always rolls around. Of course, in 2001, we know what happened on September 11th, ironically, tragically. So kind of a mixed emotion day, but I wanted to talk about my dad a little bit, and I guess before I do that, I also heard on the news about the East Coast hurricane, the storm moving in, and so thoughts and prayers for those people on the East Coast this day with events like that, and the shortness of life kind of reorients us. So for me, I think about, here I am, half a decade old, and life is short, and we have this time to use, so it helps us kind of reorient life and dealing with some of the things and the losses that we have. And then we have gains, and life is about that roller coaster of ups and downs and refocusing. So I wanted to share. So my father, like I said, he was an amazing man. Those that knew him, he was a school teacher for middle school for his career, a science teacher. He loved astronomy, he loved the outdoors, and he loved nature. And I had been mentioning last week in some of my videos about the hike I recently did with my brother to revisit some places I had visited with my father. And my mother sent me recently a journal entry from my dad from 1981. It was my first backpacking trip as a kid, and it was with him. And I didn't know that this existed, that he had written this, but I wanted to share this excerpt. I won't read the whole thing, but again, the summer of 1981, backpacking in the Sierra Nevada mountains with him. Reflecting on that, he wrote this: I can hardly wait for darkness to come to once more view the universe that has been my good fortune to inherit during these few years of mortality. The stars are my treasure, which only blindness can steal from me. As money restores my bank account, these mountains, trees, lakes, and streams, which are wrapped in azure blue sky by day, untainted by smog, and a black sky undimmed by sodium, mercury, and incandescent lamps at night, that opens my celestial treasure chest for me to see a myriad of jewels that would have made even Solomon envious, to restore my soul, which will long outlast my earthly accounts stored in banks. Lay not up for yourselves treasures of earth, where moth enter in and destroy, where rust corrupts and thieves may steal. Rather, lay up treasures in heaven, where no power will destroy or take, and that will bring you eternal joy and lives. Anyway, that was his excerpt, just his rough journaling, part of that. And anyway, came across that just reading that yesterday, and was quite moved. My dad liked to write, and like I said, he was a science teacher. He also loved to sing. He was in a choral group in Santa Clara, California, in the Bay Area. He did that for quite a few years before he passed away, and he was quite an inspiration, and I owe to him most of who I am and who I would ever hope to be. So, very friendly guy. He was soft-spoken on the one hand, but very friendly and outgoing. He took everyone at face value in terms of assuming you were a friend, and he would drop what he's doing to help anyone, and I'm not just saying that to a fault. He was serving others and not self-serving. So Anyway, today is again September 11th, so with that brings some of the unrest that exists in our world. So I'm not going to go into politics today, but it made me just kind of reflect on the temperament that exists in our political environment, and I'm hoping and praying that we all may be able to step back and think about truth and reality, and looking at everyone as our neighbor, even if somebody has a different political view. When it comes down to it, we all have our insecurities, we all have loved ones, we live, we try to survive, and the temperament on social media and in the news and how we treat one another has, I feel like it's degraded substantially, and there seems to be a loss of grounding, a loss of decency, a loss of kindness and mutual respect. And I think probably the most vocal certainly get the news, and many of us are trying to rise above that. So anyway, with that said, maybe again a media fast and taking a break off of all the news is a good thing. So I would like to just wrap up a little bit here with some discussions about I mentioned last time Cyclocross season coming up, and I realize that's not going to apply to a lot of people who may view this later. If I think, as you notice on my YouTube channel, if you subscribe and watch, I talk somewhat about health and doctor things, and I throw biking in because that's my passion. And I'm trying to orient some of that discussion about biking so it's applicable to all of us. And probably the first thing I would mention is when it comes to exercise, and this also applies to those that I know have been struggling with success with some of the dietary interventions that I've been working with them, specifically the low carb or ketogenic diet, or even just any diet change. There's often not a change that people are seeing, or there's a real stagnation. And what it reminded me of is the need that our bodies have to break out of routine and find a way to put stress on our bodies without breaking us down. Our bodies are made up of two main categories of where we either are building up our bodies or we are breaking down. You may have heard the term anabolic and catabolic. So with exercise, we're talking about a catabolic activity. That means catabolic means it's breaking down. And what that does is it breaks down muscle, it breaks down connective tissue, it breaks down and uses up energy, and it stimulates the body to rebuild stronger. It's the nature and phenomenon in living substance and living organisms, is that we need stress placed upon us to impact us and push us to grow, get stronger, and move forward. And there's a lot of metaphors in there as well with what I was just talking about. But the point is sometimes many of us are active and we're doing exercise and we're doing the same routines. We get on schedule, we go and we do this every morning or 3 or 4 days a week, and we are not shifting to put a new strain or stress on our bodies. And the aspect of that, of course, that would be nice is if it's enjoyable. So enjoyable stress, imagine that. So it's kind of like the vacation you always wanted that turned out to be more stressful than you planned on. But the exercise needs to be catabolic enough to break down the body and then stimulate the body to regrow and be stronger. Difficulty comes in when you are doing more endurance kinds of sports. My friend of mine, he's training to have a full marathon coming up, I think, in this coming weekend. So a marathon or ultra endurance cycling, these are awesome endeavors, and we all might aspire to do some form of something outside of our comfort zone. But there's a fine line between doing 10 marathons a year and doing 1 or 2 in your lifetime. So I'm not going to put any labels on that being good or bad. There's evidence, though, where we kind of need to reorient our focus, I think, sometimes to figure out, okay, why am I doing this? Am I negatively impacting my health? Do I need to set a new goal to motivate myself to do something that I can strive for? So if you're just an average person going to the gym and working out, what are you doing that could maybe change that up? For me, it actually started this morning at 5 a.m. So I have notoriously been a night owl ever since college. And that meant I did not like to get up early and work out. And I was continually battling sleep and not getting enough of it because I was pushing the day later and then getting up at the nick of time. So self-disclosure there. What I'm trying to do, even we can say, oh, that's just my nature, I'm a night owl. Well, I don't think I am a night owl. I think I created myself into that mold, and I'd like to change that up. So just like deciding to floss your teeth before you brush your teeth versus brushing your teeth and then flossing. No, that's a bizarre example, but that's something else that I changed about a decade ago. But it's funny, these little weird habits we do, and we keep doing them, and we never change unless we get, I think, go through the brain and think, let's shake things up a little bit. So I'll get back to you, let you know how it goes with my new early morning biking. So I got up at 5 a.m. to bike with friends. That was really key. It was to have some accountability where I wanted to meet friends at 5:30 a.m., which meant I had to get up, get on the bike, get to the meeting point, and be able to ride in the dark this morning. And then the sun started to lighten up. So anyway, so the point is try mixing it up a little bit and, see what you can do to shake it up this fall. Now with cyclocross season, of course, that is also what I'm training for. That is a bike racing activity that's kind of fun. It's like road biking on the dirt. So if you have a chance to Google cyclocross races, you'll get a sense of what that looks like. Not everybody needs to be a racer, but as I move along, I just keep finding setting those goals is very helpful. It's a very fun community. There's a number of them in the inland Northwest. If you're out and about, want something to do on a weekend, look up the dates for the races coming up. I think the first one in the Wild West series is actually in Sandpoint on the weekend of September 30th. And that takes place, trying to think of where that is. Just past the main town. There's an area, I forget the property. Is it part of the university? I can't remember. But anyway, I don't think there's a university there. I can't remember what. It's some open space. The cool thing about cyclocross race as a spectator is that you can see much of the course, if not all, nearly all of it, from one or two vantage points. It is a tight course that's short, usually about 2 to maybe 3 miles, and it's done in a loop. So a group goes off in the race and they do as many loops as they can within a 45 to 60 minute period. And so it's great to watch, of course, unless the weather's really bad. But that's kind of a part of the whole cyclocross racing, is that it came out of Europe with road cyclists wanting to stay, have something to do going into the off season. Notoriously, the weather was bad, and so that was the whole aspect of it. Weather, getting it through the cold and the wet and muck. So often there's a few hurdles in the race. You have to either get off your bike and jump over something, a log, or run up a hill that you can't bike up. And other than that, then there's some smooth riding and lots of twists and turns, and it's very intense, and for those that take it seriously, and it's very much the amount of intervals you're doing is pretty amazing. But anyway, there's some at Riverside State Park. Actually, first I think coming up is going to be in Coeur d'Alene. There's Walter's Fruit Ranch. And where else are they? Down in Pullman and Moscow, Idaho. And then, like I said, on Riverside, and I'm missing one. The Wild West Series has a number of them into Montana and a little further away, so I only typically go to the Sandpoint one. Anyway, so I guess I'll call that a wrap. Here it is, 1 o'clock. So I hope you're having a blessed day. And like I said, I have not set the date for sure on talking about Lyme's disease. But watch for that. And anyway, get out there, stay healthy, and stay in touch. Bye for now.